the AC part, which is section C. Specifically, I'm going to focus on the geography part. So you're supposed to answer one question from each part. Then you're supposed to write the answers in the space provided from pages, that is 14 to 23. So I'm going to answer all the parts here, but from part 1, you need to answer only one question. If you choose to answer question 1, you choose to answer question 1, you answer question 1, and then you leave the rest. You go to part 2, you answer one question. So it's like this. The first part is geography, the second part is history, then the fourth part is from civic education. So I'm going to answer all the questions which are falling under geography. Okay. So we have the first question, which is saying, describe one of the following traditional types of shifting cultivation. So let's start with Chitemene system. So who practiced Chitemene system? So Chitemene system is practiced by Bemba. Ask Bembas. From northern province. Okay. So in terms of the way you are going to write, since this is the S, you are going to say Chitemene system is practiced by what? By Bemba people. So practiced by Bemba people. From where? Northern province, right? From northern province. That is from northern province. Okay. Then from there, what is next? So the farmers, they usually cut down the trees. That's the next step. This Chitemene system means cutting down of trees. So you can also say by saying practiced by Bemba people from northern province. Then you can say Chitemene system means cut down of trees. So at least from each point you write, from each question you write 3 points. Okay. So we can say farmers cut down trees. So that's the very, very important part that you need to know. So they cut down trees. Now after cutting down the trees, they peel them. They peel them in central area. Once they peel them in central area, what is going to happen is that they are going to burn them, okay, after they dry up. So they peel them and in the central area and burn them. Once they dry up, they burn them. So now what is going to happen is that the reason why they are cutting down the trees, and once they dry up and then burn them, they want now the ashes to act as fertilizer. So here we are going to say the ash or the ashes act as fertilizer. Fertilizer. That is one thing that you need to know. So for us Bembas who live in northern province, or the Bembas who live in northern province, they don't use, nowadays there are some who uses fertilizers, but most of them, they just cut down trees. Then once they dry up, they are going to burn them, and the ashes which is going to be formed from there, it is going to act as fertilizer. Now we can also talk about the crops which are grown. Crops grown include, so we can talk of millet. Millet is grown. Apart from millet, we can also talk about cassava. Apart from cassava, what else? We can also talk about maize and maize. So this is what you're supposed to write about the Chitemene system. Now what about the Lozi system? Southern province, right? Or the western province? It's western province. So for the Lozi is western province. So the Lozi people from western Zambia or the western province, So what is it about the lossy system? So the lossy system is usually practiced in the floodplains. So what are we going to say? We can say cultivation, right? Cultivation is done in floodplains. Cultivation is done on floodplains. That is where the cultivation is taking place after seasonal floods recede. So floodplains, after season or seasonal floods recede, that is leaving fertile soil. So that is very, very important to know here. Then apart from that one, we need also to talk about the crops which are grown during or which are grown by the lossy system or the lossy people in Western Province. So you can talk of millet. So crops grown we can talk about the millet. Okay, apart from millet, so here we can't include cassava because cassava can't be grown by the lossy people. So we can also include sorghum and millet. Now what about the Mambwe system? So when you talk of Mambwe system, which is practiced by the Easterners, okay, so the Eastern people, the Mambwe. So you can talk of being practiced by the Eastern Zambia, the Eastern people. Yeah. So in terms of how this one is practiced, so the farmers, they clear the small plots and burn the vegetables, like the same thing that they are going to clear. They are clearing the land and then they are going to burn the same like the grasses and other things. So the first thing we are going to say, farmers clear small plots, clear small plots. So that is very, very important. In this case, they don't even cultivate that much. They just cultivate using small plots of land. Then we can also talk about burning the vegetables. It's RN, or vegetation, I mean. So they burn the vegetation or the grasses, in short. Then in terms of the way they cultivate, these are examples of shift cultivation. Even the main system, they are examples of shift cultivation. So they rotate the field after fertile soil decline, in terms of once they use the land, next year they're not going to use the same land, they will choose another one. Okay, so we are going to say these, they rotate field. So this one has to be E, rotate fields after soil fertility or fertility decline or declines. That one is going to sound good. So that is one thing that needs to know. So crops grown, so we can say C. Okay, so in terms of the crops grown, we can talk of maize and millet. Okay, then the question, which is question B, saying explain the effect of shifting cultivation on the environment. So these are examples of shift cultivation. So this one is calling 4 marks. Now what is going to be the effect of shifting cultivation? Number one, it is going to cause soil erosion. Cause soil erosion. Let me write it nicely. It is going to cause soil erosion. Then apart from soil erosion, it is also going to contribute to the climate change. Contribute to climate change. Then apart from contributing to climate change, what else can we include? We can also include leading to deforestation. Leads to deforestation. Leads to deforestation and loss of biodiversity. So in talk of biodiversity, so remember, where they are cutting the trees is more like the forest, and they are living organisms which live there. So meaning to say, if they destroy their habitat, you're going to find that the animals, they are not going to have anywhere to live. So that's the reason why we are saying lead to deforestation and loss of habitat or biodiversity. So this one is BI, then TA, habitat. Then the last one, this one you're going to find that it is going to reduce, or it's going to reduce long term in terms of the land productivity. Reduces long term land productivity. Long term land productivity. So that is very, very important to know. So this one is carrying 4 marks. That is 4 marks for you. Then question 2, question A. It is saying briefly describe 2 methods of mining. So we have 2 methods of mining. The first one is open pit mining. So open pit mining. Then the next one is underground mining. So we need to describe them. Underground mining. So let me start with open pit mining. What are you going to find under open pit mining? So you're going to find that a large pit is going to be made to extract minerals near the surface. So this one is done when the minerals are near the surface of the earth. So we are going to say large pits are dig to extract time, that is to extract minerals near the earth's surface. So suppose now if the minerals are not near the surface of the earth, which one is going to be useful here? Say underground mining, since the minerals are beneath the surface of the earth. So what else can we include here? So we can say minerals including copper, minerals include copper, aluminium, and lead. So those can be mined using the open pit mining. Now what about underground mining? Let me just write it here. So we have the underground mining. So for underground mining, the tunnels are made. Okay, tunnels are dig or are made. That is deep into the earth surface. That is deep into the earth, just to reach the minerals. To reach the minerals, to reach the minerals. Okay, I'm going to include this one, that is mineral deposits. Now, in terms of the minerals which are mined under underground mining. Minerals including, the first one can also include copper, lead, iron, can also include iron, lead, diamond, and other minerals. So an example of underground mining is, this one can be also be referred to as shaft mining, right? Because they use the shaft in mining, or shaft mining. They use the shaft to extract the minerals from the underground. So that's the reason why it is also known as shaft mining. So that one is very, very important to know. Then when it comes to question B, it is saying discuss the contribution of mining to socio-economic development of Zambia. So 6 marks. So I'm going to give you that one. So the first one is that it is going to provide employment opportunity. The second one is to generate government revenue, as well as contributing to foreign exchange, and also increase or stimulate the infrastructure development, encourage industrialization, because once minerals are extracted, they can be sold to industries for processing, and so that they make things from them. And then apart from that one, improving the living standards in the mining town. 6 marks for this question. Then for question 3, describe renewable and non-renewable sources of power and energy. So when you talk of renewable source of energy, we talk about this one. So renewable source of energy can be replenished. Okay, so can be replenished naturally. So when you talk of can be replenished naturally, can be accessed naturally. This includes the solar, wind, and hydroelectric. So we can say and hydro is coming from the word water, so we can say hydroelectric, or we can just say hydro. Then apart from hydro, we can also talk about the biomass. No, this is I and then O, biomass. So these are examples of renewable sources. Then when it comes to non-renewable sources, finite